Here's a live look here. We're outside the Prudential Center there in Newark, gearing up for what's expected to be a victory party tonight for one Cory Booker. And let's bring in Andrew now. And Andrew, it's not like I'm going on a limb here. A month or so ago, people thought this thing might have been close. It just hasn't worked out that way.
I'm not really sure what the opposite of going out on a limb is, Rich, but that's where you are with this. And that's because the Newark mayor is out to a big lead in all of the pre-primary polling. Booker with a 37-point lead in the Democratic primary for the U.S. Open Senate seat. Republicans also with the primary today. Extremely low turnout reported in both races. Former Bogota Mayor Steve Lonegan, the expected winner on the GOP side. Polls close at 8. We're going to have to see how the Lonegan campaign's controversial Newark Third World Map tweet last week impacts the Republican numbers. By the way, if Lonegan and Booker do advance to the October general, Booker would begin with a 25-point lead. Rich?
You know, if we go back to that graphic about Booker versus the field, I'm surprised he's walking with this thing the way he is, only because it's not like Holt and Pallone have no name recognition. They're two schleps from that you don't know. And Sheila Oliver is a power in the state legislature. My only point is Booker isn't universally beloved. They didn't like how he handled Lautenberg. There's real questions about the city of Newark, but yet you wouldn't know it. In every poll you look at, they think this guy is, you know, basically, as we were saying in the break, Teflon here. I'm surprised he's winning by as much as he is.
Well, some of this may also be the groundwork that he laid before the death of Frank Lautenberg. When Lautenberg announced his retirement, don't forget, Booker was trying to squeeze out the field and clear out the field. So he certainly got his name forward, he got the attention, and he may have laid the tracks to actually get out to that big lead. And you know, again, they're well known in their districts, Pallone and Holt, but not as well known throughout the state, and that hurts.
See, the country, Booker is a national name. I mean, for not only for several years now.
Yeah.
So his profile is much higher. His name recognition is much higher, as you know. It's to be expected. I mean, he's been waiting for this since he got out of the cradle.
All gimmicks, well, personality driven, and I will say gimmicks.
Yeah,
gimmicks of him being Batman, you know, saving everyone and so on. That's what this is all about. Shoveling snow, but when you keep stumbling upon incident after incident, I question whether this is real.
He's a superhero.
I see.
All right, let's get to
He's also a millionaire, apparently, with little shady dealings here. So I guess before he got to the Senate, where there are a lot of millionaires in the U.S. Senate, he had to make himself
Just
a
tell me
millionaire.
when you're done. You're okay. All right, now let's get to the poll that's got everybody talking. And there's some big surprises in the New York City mayor's race. And Andrew, I read the numbers and I did a double take. I wasn't sure if I saw him right the first time, but Mr. de Blasio's happy that, in fact, the Q poll got it right.
Rich, you did read the numbers right, and Scott, stop dancing over there. There's a new leader in the Democratic primary. It's public advocate Bill de Blasio, and he jumps out to a big lead in the latest Q poll, up 6 over Christine Quinn, up 8 over Bill Thompson. What's more, de Blasio wins runoffs over everybody right now. Thompson is the closest to him in potential runoff situation, and Weiner is 50 points behind him in a runoff. The surprise is on the Republican side. There you see the numbers for a runoff for de Blasio. Surprise on the Republican side as well. Joe Lhota is still the leader in the Republican primary, but he's only up 6 over Catsimatidis. Rich?
Let me ask you, Scott, why? Is it that he got all of the Weiner votes that left him after the second scandal? They went to de Blasio. I think he's capable, but the surprising thing for me is that he's got enough name recognition at this point. I guess the commercial with the kid and the fro, as everybody talks about it now, is obviously stuck here. He's done something right. I'm just surprised enough people still know him at this point.
I mean, in fact, what we've said all along is that the Quinn numbers have been hugely inflated and name recognition driven from the beginning. And the more, in our internal polls, the more that people get informed about her positions on the issues, the less they like her. Her numbers are particularly inflated among Latino voters and progressive white voters, who just abandon her like hordes when presented and informed with her position on the issues. It also has shown our internal polling that both Thompson's negatives and de Blasio's negatives are so low compared to Weiner and Quinn.
So if you had to be a betting man right now, the runoff is Thompson and de Blasio?
You just have to, our numbers confirm what the Quinnipiac poll said.
Why is de Blasio gaining more from Quinn's numbers falling and from Weiner's absolute plummeting? Why is de Blasio gaining more than Thompson is, let's say?
I mean, we believe that a lot of her fall is among those progressive whites I spoke about earlier, and he's a natural gainer from that.
Dom, can you explain, though, the fall of Christine Quinn? Everybody, you don't have to follow this to understand Weiner's specific fall.
Real easy.
But they've even, like, somebody once said, they even covered at a same-sex rally and stuff that she went there, and she got grilled harder than the other candidates. She just doesn't seem to have a natural constituency that lines up for her, and
it's
you wouldn't
real
have
easy.
thought so.
It's real easy. She was the candidate of the establishment to begin. Folks don't like being told who their next mayor is. And then the second and the biggest reason for Christine Quinn, she's not going to get away from term limits. She made a third term possible for Bloomberg, and I hope that works out for her because it's now part of her legacy. It's not going to go away.
Let me ask you, Karen. Republicans, I would think, Republican establishment say their best shot at keeping City Hall would be Joe Lhota here. I know Catsimatidis's got money, or at least his own money.
Right.
Why hasn't Lhota resonated? I thought he did a pretty good job. When we were during Hurricane Sandy, I thought he acquitted himself pretty well. He's had some missteps, but I think it's inside baseball, the missteps he's done. Why hasn't he taken off among Republicans?
I think Joe Lhota is kind of like Mitt Romney. He's a technocrat, but he does not relate well. You know why Cory Booker is so far ahead? It's because he's got personality, he's got charisma, he's got a story. What's Joe Lhota's story? He managed the MTA well. That's great if you ride the trains, but that really doesn't motivate people. If I was Bill de Blasio, I wouldn't be happy about this poll because I think he's on top because there's been a circular firing squad in the big field. He's been on the outside. Now that he's the top dog for the time being, he's going to get some fire trained on him. He's going to come down to earth. That's right. He wants this poll September 7th when it's too late to make any more commercials against him.
I think also Catsimatidis, spent more money than Joe Lhota. Lhota's had issues raising as much, raising that much money as in matching Catsimatidis, who's funding his own campaign. In addition, I think de Blasio, the African-American vote is really helping, or in polling is really helping de Blasio. I mean, you see he's tuning into that. He's putting his family out there, which is biracial family, by biracial kids, his African-American wife, and I think that's playing up also.
But that can cut both ways, Richard, because de Blasio was criticized for that early on in the campaign of throwing his family. It's almost like saying, "Look at my black wife."
I gotta say though,
Well, look
the
at the
kids
commercial.
The one with the kid, the one with the kid is a good spot. I would say that even if he wasn't my dad, and the afro out to here.
Yeah.
But now,
did the fro ever get that big for you, Dom, back in the day? You gotta find the photos. Give it, Jim. You gotta find the photos.
I would pay for that.
You know what they said back in the day?
I would pay for
Yes.
that.
All right.
so what are you saying now?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying now.
There's always a way. We got it.
You two are together on this one. All right, up next, we got more bad polling news for the New York City bad boy candidates, Andrew, and it got pretty testy.
It did, and we'll get to the controllers debate in just a minute, but of course we're referring to, well, who could we possibly be referring to other than Anthony Weiner and Elliot Spitzer. Siena poll this week shows 68% of New Yorkers think the attention both get is embarrassing, 62% of people in New York City. Weiner broke a Siena poll record this week, his 80% disapproval rate, the highest for any candidate or politician ever in the poll's history. And that's saying something, Rich, because there have been some bad politicians that have come through.
Listen, never say never, but can you imagine any narrative where he can change the perception? I saw the spot that he did, and okay, fine. What else can he say, I guess? But he seems to step in something every day.
Yeah, just an awful rollout from the beginning, handled it terribly, was a long shot at best, but he blew it from day one. The ones you launch your new campaign saying, there may be 6, there may be 7, but there's bound to be some other. You're inviting folks who do what you do for a living.
Or as Dominic asked him and got the ball rolling in that interview. Yeah, it's really stunning, though. It's stunning the fall. But how about Spitzer? Do you think he can hang on here? I know we're talking about the city controller's race. We're not talking about the race for the White House. But can he hang on at the end of the day? Are people willing to just say, I'll hold my nose because the guy was confident?
The real shame of the Spitzer candidacy to date is that he's gotten away scot-free to date, just as he's got away for his crimes in the past. He calls up a bank and says, take my name off the bank transfer, wannabe controller. Smashes sex rings, participates in prostitution. No jail time, no charge. But the blasphemy of him sitting there saying he's self-funding, he's not self-funding. He's taken daddy's money and funding. When did he have a real estate industry? When did he have an empire?
But
He's
Scott,
taken
but
daddy's
in
money.
fairness, though, he does run the company. Daddy's retired and he's
So
gone
then daddy gave him a gift.
But
Where is it?
Having said all that, Scott Stringer might still have time, and there might be enough wiener fatigue on Spitzer that, and it's not like this. And we're going to see the highlights in a second. But it's not like the controllers race has been all flowery and fact oriented. It's been a lot of negative and a lot of you said this and I said that. And
Richard, I just don't see any scenario where Scott Stringer can pull this through. He doesn't have the personality. I'm sorry, Scott.
Yeah, but it's city controller.
It is city controller,
It is actually about
but he's got the personality of this table.
I think they're both incompetent, but then again, I work with John Burnett, who's a Republican, and the
Keep
controller
throwing that name out
candidate.
there, yeah.
So,
Well played, well played.
Now, speaking of Spitzer, he and Stringer, who is Dominic compared to a table, they went out again in another debate last night, and once again, they didn't leave much in the bag.
Up there when you had no more use for
With
it.
all due respect, please.
Let me, but I'm not done.
Continue. Go ahead.
Thank
We
you.
got another 25 minutes.
Well, you know, you're interrupting me, so you should just relax.
I'm just asking you to continue.
So, what were you saying on that TV show that you got $2 million for? You were criticizing us as we were in the streets. You were telling us we weren't doing enough, but you didn't get your hands dirty.
I got my hands dirty for 10 years as Attorney General, as Governor, changing
That you
Albany.
did. That you did.
Changing Albany.
That's true. When you
Gentlemen.
came to Albany, we thought that you would take
Mr.
it to the
Stringer,
next
hold
level,
on.
and you
Hold
failed.
on.
The reason we had a third term is because the political establishment, with Scott's support and participation, gave the mayor a third term.
You want to self-fund. You're the biggest real estate donor to yourself.
The public is now looking at the totality of my record, and they are saying, we want you to come back to fight for us.
I thought MMA was illegal in New York. It felt like that was in the middle of an octagon.
Yeah, but I just love, with all due respect to Spitzer, that he's playing himself as the outsider candidate. He was the governor of the state of New York. and he was the
Nobody
attorney
has a
general.
higher opinion of
Oh,
himself
my
than Elvis
God.
Spitzer.
All right. When we come back, is the nation already gearing up for Hillary 2016? Now, I've said before, I can't stand talking about the next presidential race here when we're only in 2013. But that said, seems like everybody else, including this president, is. And if it's the case, what does it say about our current commander-in-chief here? And I at least got a tough perspective on him for how this whole thing is playing out and what it says about his presidency to this point. We're going to talk about that after this.